in the right direction. And while there is great work left to be done, you know I am the math guy, and it is clear tonight from the numbers that we are not going to win this race. I am not someone who wants to accept donations and support in a race that we will not win. And so tonight I am announcing I am suspending my campaign for president.
I love you, Andrew!
I love you too. Thank you, New Hampshire. Thank you so much.
You say going to the 7-Eleven? I don't have no money. That money I had,
Thank you so much,
I give
New
it for that,
Hampshire.
right? $20 was given to Umar. See, that
This is
you
not
can eat, you know.
an easy decision or
And then the
something
rest of the time
I
I
made
had it
lightly
in my
with the
pocket.
team.
And then
Endings
when
are
the
hard.
guys start moving
And I've
around too
always
much.
had the intention to
They are
stay in this
drop
race
into
until
that
the very
happen, I don't
end.
know.
But I have been persuaded that the message of this campaign will not be strengthened by my staying in this race any longer. Endings are hard, New Hampshire, but this is not an ending. This is a beginning.
Andrew Yang in Manchester, New
I'm
Hampshire
good,
earlier
though.
tonight. All of the speeches available
Be
on
good,
our
Alfred.
website. We're still waiting to hear back
hit the
from
highway.
the top contenders in New Hampshire. Senator
I'm
Bernie
ready to.
Sanders, former Mayor
Okay.
Pete Buttigieg, and our live coverage continues with WNUR.
9:30 in the evening now, and we've got about 40% of the vote now tallied across the great state of New Hampshire, and here's how we shake out at right now. Bernie Sanders leads the pack with about 24,000 votes, 27%. Pete Buttigieg, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, with 21,000, 24% of the vote, and coming in number 3 is Amy Klobuchar, 20%, and Elizabeth Warren behind the top 3 at 10%.
It is close at the top, isn't it, tonight? Okay, Joe Biden, who has exited New Hampshire and is now in South Carolina. A disappointing sight with just 8%. Behind him, Tom Steyer, who is also not in New Hampshire tonight at 3%. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard also at 3%.
And Andrew Yang, who has suspended his campaign, is at 3%. Deval Patrick, we have not yet heard from tonight. He comes in with less than 1%. And Michael Bennet, who's dropped out of the race with less than 1%. And, of course, President Trump wins on the Republican side over Bill Weld.
So this won't be a story so much as a winner, but it could be multiple winners with stories, good stories to tell coming out of New Hampshire tonight. We're on standby to hear from Senator Amy Klobuchar, so let's talk about that a little bit. If she can hold on to a third place, and it's a close third place, and the spread between first and third is not wide, as you can see here, what a story she'll be able to tell with the momentum coming through this state.
And Tom and Jen, that's, one of the things in the New Hampshire primary is sort of who becomes that memorable candidate, right? Who wows us in that final stretch. And, Pete Buttigieg doing well tonight, but Amy Klobuchar is a big part of the conversation right now in terms of having a really great debate and then turning that into a strong finish tonight.
That's it. In fact, she should probably send a thank you note to WMUR TV because the debate shows in ABC exit polls, 69% of Amy Klobuchar's supporters who cast ballots for her today were saying that they made that decision within just the last few days. So the debate, the momentum, and she was a custom fit for Granite State voters. She talked about working with Republicans. She talked about pragmatic outcomes. Being a Minnesotan who won elections as a Democrat in places where Republicans usually dominate. That kind of purple talk, if you will, is exactly what resonates with independent voters here in New Hampshire. That's the kind of person we embrace around here. So it's really not a huge surprise that she did this well. But if we're talking about 3 tickets out of New Hampshire, Amy Klobuchar is definitely part of the national dialogue.
Every event I covered of hers from beginning to up until recently, she would always mention how closely she works with Jeanne Shaheen and Maggie Hassan, sort of plugging those two things over and over again.
Absolutely, and neither of those senators endorsed in this race. Of course, Jeanne Shaheen wouldn't because she's running for re-election. Maggie Hassan decided not to endorse. Now, I don't know what the background there is. Perhaps best to stay out of it. But for Amy Klobuchar, this was a perfect example of how we always say, half the folks haven't really made up their mind until the final few days. And I believe it's true. I think some of the polls showed that. And that those who broke, as you said, a big number of those went to her. And of course, this is a victory for her. A third place finish.
Yeah.
No question.
And, obviously, obviously, right now we're looking at a lot of numbers coming in as we wait for Amy Klobuchar to take the stage and give her speech soon. I want to talk a little bit about some numbers we're seeing out of Londonderry. Here are these unofficial results. It looks like Pete Buttigieg had a 300 vote margin win over Sanders and about 200 more than and Klobuchar. So that's something to keep an eye on right now. As you know, as we look at the numbers, and Buttigieg is within range. It's not close. Probably as close as he'd want to be to Sanders. But if he can post a few more wins in some of these like Laconia, Londonderry areas where he racks up a few hundred votes on the margin, he's got to be in play later tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, just to go back as we wait for Amy Klobuchar, what we're watching right now is New Hampshire helping to reset the conversation beyond the New Hampshire primary. At this point now, we get to see a battle between Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar, with Joe Biden having to now justify his existence and hang on for dear life in South Carolina, where he was leading polls. But now it's a three-way conversation for the moderate heart and soul of the Democratic option. Who is going to be the alternative to Bernie Sanders? This gives Bernie an advantage because now it looks like Elizabeth Warren is going to drift into the pack. She's going to be less and less part of this conversation. But these three now have to figure out how to distinguish from themselves. And Amy's debate performance shows me she knows how to do that on stage. She's going to continue doing that. She's going to raise eyebrows at it.
The big wins tonight. Bernie obviously finishes first. That's a win. That's kind of baked in. That was almost expected, right? This is his territory. But for Buttigieg to challenge, I mentioned that this could be a victory for Klobuchar. That doesn't belittle in any way the possibility that Pete Buttigieg could win this outright.
Yeah, and
that's true.
There's just so much to consider tonight as well. When you think about how the race stretches out after this here,
right.
If you are a Joe Biden, if you are an Elizabeth Warren, that the miles ahead start to get longer, and if you don't have some momentum coming out of New Hampshire, things are not looking good.
Yeah, I remember Amy Klobuchar was talking about raising something like $3 million off of that debate performance over the course of a long weekend going into today's vote. Pete Buttigieg is doing the same type of thing. These are two people that are going to be able to fundraise and actually have the resources necessary to go the distance. And that would have been a question mark about both of them probably a month ago. Now they have a course for being able to capture the nomination. It becomes a lot more real now that they're in second and third place. And you're right, we're talking about Bernie Sanders winning this thing, but those two moderates are going to be an interesting part of this conversation.
The spin is already beginning. I was just going to say, the spin is already beginning that, well, Bernie's not winning by enough.
Right.
So
he didn't
here we
get
go,
30%.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
And we are waiting for Amy Klobuchar. You can see Executive Counselor Deb Pignatelli right now probably doing the introduction for Amy Klobuchar. But as we head into that, John, give us some structure here in terms of when we talk about election night returns in New Hampshire, and you've covered these since the 1980s, there are some towns that come in late. We're always waiting on Nashua. We're always waiting on Keene.
I'm not saying anything. You're a young man, John DeStaso.
Not the 1980s, 1980s.
I'm still waiting on Durham. Yeah. So it's like there are a lot of big towns still left out there that we need to wait for. So there's a lot left on the table.
Obviously, Nashua is always late.
Yeah.
It's big. We talked about endorsements. The mayor, Donches, very popular, endorsed Pete Buttigieg. What effect will that have? That's obviously. And have we gotten Keene?
I don't think we
haven't. So
in Lebanon, Pete did well.
Yeah, so we're going to be here until some of these late cities. The cities usually take longer.
Right.
And there's a lot of towns filling in right now, and it seems to be almost like a back and forth, right? With Klobuchar always hanging around.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really going to be told by the big population centers. And Bernie got a big boost in Manchester.
Yes.
What happens in Nashville? What happens in Keene? What happens over in Stratford County?
Right. And Durham as well, right?
And don't forget Portsmouth.
Yes.
Yeah. 2 cents in here, real quick. So with the two moderates, both Buttigieg and Klobuchar now up there near the top, what does that do to the Bloomberg argument?
Well, it's a good question, because at the moment, I think Bloomberg's entire existence has to do with Joe Biden not doing well.
Right.
So what it really does is it puts a brighter spotlight on both Amy and Pete, right? They are now the ones to watch coming out of New Hampshire, and the rest of the country can learn that. But their performance has got to be spot on. So for Buttigieg, I think it means that he's got to do a better job performing on a debate stage. And for Klobuchar, it means that she's got to continue doing what she's doing that got her here in the first place.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take you now live to Amy Klobuchar headquarters. She is now on the stage. She's ready to speak to her supporters. And we're just waiting for her.
She's going to be jubilant.
Yes.
We had a chance to talk to her after the debate, and she came right up on our set, and she was so excited. She knew that she kind of hit it out of the ballpark.
We're going to leave our live simulcast of WMUR. Our thanks to them for allowing you to see how this story is playing out in the Granite State. And the speeches continue in New Hampshire, in Concord, the Amy Klobuchar headquarters, and the results coming in live at cspan.org.
Thank you, New Hampshire. We love you, New Hampshire. Hello, America. I'm Amy Klobuchar, and I will beat Donald Trump. My heart is full tonight. My heart is full tonight. While there are still ballots left to count, we have beaten the odds every step of the way. We have done it on the merits, we have done it with ideas, and we have done it with hard work. Because we are resilient and strong as the people of this great nation. Thank you to our incredible staff and our unstoppable volunteers, my wonderful husband John, our daughter Abigail, and the people of New Hampshire. Because of you, we are taking this campaign to Nevada. To South Carolina. And we are taking this message of unity to the country. Because we know in our hearts that in a democracy, it is not about the loudest voice or the biggest bank account. It is about the best idea and about the person who can turn those ideas into action. We know that we cannot win big by trying to out-divide the divider-in-chief. We know that we win by bringing people with us instead of shutting them out. Donald Trump's worst nightmare is that the people in the middle, the people who have had enough of the name-calling and the mudslinging, have someone to vote for in November. I cannot wait to bring our green bus around the country. I cannot wait to win the nomination. I cannot wait to build a movement and win with a movement of fired up Democrats, of independents and moderate Republicans that see this election as we do. We see it as an economic check on this president. We see it as a patriotism check, and we see it as a decency check. Because in the end, we know that what unites us is so much bigger than what divides us. And we know that we believe, so many of us believe, that the heart of America is bigger than the heart of this guy in the White House. Tonight is about grit. And my story, like so many of yours, is one of resilience. I announced my candidacy in the middle of a Minnesota blizzard. And there were a lot of people that predicted I wouldn't even get through that speech. But not the people of my state and not the people of New Hampshire. Except then they predicted that we wouldn't make it through the summer. We did. Then they predicted we wouldn't make it to the debates. And man, were we at the debate in New Hampshire. What we've been is steady, we've been strong, and we've never quit. I think that sounds pretty good for a president. But across the months and months and miles of this race, we redefined the word grit. You see it with our Happy Scrappy campaign. You saw it in our 10-county, 30-hour tour in the middle of a nor'easter. Let's not forget that. You saw it in our early morning diner stops, on our late night rallies, and yes, you saw it on that debate stage. Just like so many of you out there, I know a little bit about resilience. My grandpa worked 1,500 feet underground in the mines in northern Minnesota. He never graduated from high school because his parents were sick. He had 9 brothers and sisters, and he had to help raise them. And every day he would go down in that cage in that mine carrying a lunch bucket that my grandma would pack. His youngest sister, Hannah, was only 8 years old when they put her in an orphanage, and he vowed after his parents died that he would go and get her. And 2 years later, he borrowed a car, he went to Duluth, and he brought her home. He and my grandma saved money in a coffee can in their basement to send my dad to a 2-year community college. My dad then became a newspaper man. My mom, she was born in Milwaukee, the site of our next convention. And she came to Minnesota and taught 2nd grade until she was 70 years old. And I still meet people that say she was their favorite teacher. So I stand before you today as a granddaughter of an iron ore miner, as a daughter of a teacher and a newspaperman, as the first woman elected to the U.S. Senate from the state of Minnesota, and a candidate for President of the United States. That, my friends, that is because we live in a country of shared dreams. That no matter where you come from, no matter who you know, no matter the color of your skin, no matter where you worship, no matter who you love, that you can make it in the United States of America. I didn't have a perfect life. My dad struggled with alcoholism his whole life, and by the time John and I got married, he got his 3rd DWI. And then the judge said to him, you got to decide jail or treatment. And he chose treatment. And in his words, he was pursued by grace. I believe that everyone in this country should have that opportunity to be pursued by grace. When Abigail was born, we thought it was going to be this perfect thing, but she was really sick, and she couldn't swallow, and she was in intensive care. And back then, the insurance companies had a rule, and they kicked me out of the hospital, even though she was in intensive care, in 24 hours. And a few months later, I went to the legislature, worked with a number of legislators, and we passed one of the first laws in the country guaranteeing new moms and their babies a 48-hour hospital stay. That's how I do my work. And as my friend Elizabeth noted earlier tonight, people told me, just like they told her, that they didn't think a woman could be elected. In my case, it was elected to the U.S. Senate. No woman had ever done it before. But I came back, I defied expectations, and I won. And I have done it over and over again in the reddest of red districts and the bluest of blue districts. And when I got to the U.S. Senate, people told me, oh, it's so hard to get things done. Well, in that gridlock of Washington, D.C., I have passed over 100 bills as the lead Democrat. And tonight in New Hampshire, as everyone had counted us out, even a week ago, thank you, pundits, I came back and we delivered.
Pleasure for me, sir. Thanks so much for having me.
Mystic.
The difference stuck out to me was that line.
97 WTMD.
Compared to the resilience that I've seen all
It's more.
People. Now, call RCA today at 800.
Winter season. Make sure your car is prepared.
To our independent ladies in the DMV at the Fillmore in Silver Spring, Maryland. And of course, your number one station in the DMV is putting you in the building for free. We're celebrating International Women's Day, Saturday, March 7th. And special guests at the Fillmore in Silver Spring. Log on to KYSDC.com for more details. We're celebrating International Women's Day, featuring Kiana Ledet. KYSDC.com for more details.
I'm Michael Block. I'm doing a story about your mom.
How's your article coming?
To be honest, I was a little distracted.
Why?
So I kept running back at my mom how you might respond to me asking you for a drink.
So that was you asking me?
In my mind, it was smoother than that.
My mother wasn't very good at love. What if I'm just like her? I'm afraid to love you.
You don't have to be afraid. Good things take time to develop.
The Photograph. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. In theaters Friday.
Let's talk about Daniel. A year ago, he resolved to stop putting off what he wanted to do. Get into information technology. Daniel enrolled in My Computer Career and is now already a few months into his IT career. Make 2020 your year. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation today. You can start your new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. Classes meet on campus or live online just 2 times a week. It's not rocket science. It's My Computer Career. mycomputercareer.edu. The biggest concert of the decade. Saturday, March 7th at Constitution Hall. Starring Master P. Performing new hits and the classics. With Mystical. Bazooka Shocker. Along with me, Mia X and the entire No Limit family. The Ice Cream Man is coming. The No Limit Reunion Tour. Saturday, March 7th at Constitution Hall. The concert of the decade. The No Limit Reunion Tour. Starring the entire No Limit family and special invited guests. Saturday, March 7th at Constitution Hall. Tickets available online at Ticketmaster.com and all Ticketmaster locations.